The Word of God by Thomas M. Disch. The Word of God was Disch's final work of fiction and was published just a few days before his death by suicide. As I have mentioned in a couple of my other book reviews, Thomas Disch was a very good writer, but also a very troubled man. He was raised in Iowa and Minnesota in a very religious family. Disch was gay and left home early. As a desperate 18-year-old, he tried to commit suicide by turning on the gas in his apartment. The attempt failed because his gas was shut off for non-payment. He enlisted in the military, but was discharged after 3 months and sent temporarily to a mental hospital. At that time, in the late 1950s, homosexuality was still considered a mental illness. He was befriended by Michael Moorcock, and most of his early work was published in New Worlds, Moorcock's progressive SF magazine. The original title of this book was Why I Am God. Fearing that might be a little too in your face for many readers, Disch revised it to The Word of God. Like all his work, The Word of God is very well written. It contains a lot of very dark, sardonic humor. The basic premise of the book is that Disch is God, and because he is God, he can do things only God can do, like send Philip K. Dick to hell and give him an everlasting case of writer's block. Let's talk about the reason behind this strange premise. Disch and Dick had been friends. Not close friends, but mutually supportive writers in the field of speculative fiction. Years after Dick's death, Disch learned that Dick had sent a letter to the FBI suggesting Disch's work contained subversive hidden messages. Learning this caused Thomas Disch to become very angry. I can't really understand why. Philip K. Dick had been dead for many years, and everyone knew that he was a whack job whose brain was severely addled by years of drug use. So 26 years after Philip K. Dick's death, Thomas M. Disch gets revenge by writing this weird, funny, sad book about Dick in hell with writer's block, making a deal to return to Earth as his 10-year-old self and manipulate historical events so that Hitler is sure to win World War II. Disch never really resolved the trauma of his religious upbringing. His writings are full of slams against the church, and apparently he was unable to get over what he perceived as a betrayal by his drug-addicted, not very close writer friend, Philip K. Dick. Thomas Disch really knew how to hold a grudge. This book is very entertaining. As with all of Disch's work, it unfolded effortlessly before my eyes. Before I knew it, I had read 100 pages, simply because of the captivating quality of his prose. Another real-life character who plays a role in the book is the novelist Thomas Mann. Mann was a very prominent writer with lots of skeletons in his closet. In The Word of God, Mann is at the Leamington Hotel trying to seduce Tom Disch's young mother, Helen. The year is 1939, and that gives the 10-year-old Philip K. Dick just enough lead time to eliminate Mann from the picture, which in a roundabout way will ensure that Hitler wins the war. Don't ask me to explain the details, just read the book if you dare. Interwoven with all the Philip K. Dick in hell stuff is a lot of musing on the part of God, aka Thomas Disch. I read this book in 2 sittings and enjoyed every minute of it. Still, it left me feeling depressed and sad for both Philip K. Dick and Thomas Disch. The more I research the backstories of some of my favorite writers, the more I realize a great many of them bore the burden of heavy sorrows and were often misunderstood or neglected. Such is life. Part of my own process of growing up has been the realization that many very creative people who created fictional worlds I love to explore were just plain unhappy, mentally and financially unstable. As I have stated elsewhere on this channel, I'm a huge fan of Philip K. Dick, and have been since the age of 12, when I bought my first science fiction novel with my own money, Dick's story, The Penultimate Truth. I've come to Disch's work later in life, but I love him every bit as much. With a heavy sigh for the sorrows both these men endured, I bid you farewell. The Word of God by Thomas M. Disch, an unusually well-written journey into the dark corners of a tragic man's mind. Highly recommended.